Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to have you today. I always look forward to having you. Welcome for today's engagement. So you're welcome anytime from 5:30 to 6, where we meet to talk business. So my name is Janan Kanwanoho, and I'm the Managing Director at Janaki Holdings Limited. I make time every Friday to come and interact with you and share with you what the Lord has put on my heart. So today's topic is quite an interesting one. The role of mentorship in business. So I've heard from several guys, from colleagues, from friends, that they have mentors, they look forward to having mentors, they plan to have mentors, and this is the opportunity to learn the role of a mentor in business. The role of a mentor in business. So I want you to note that the business that you're running, you're not the first person to run that business. So that you should note. Point number one, you're not the first person to run that business. And neither are you the last person to run that business. So meaning that there's someone else who has run that business before. There's someone else who ran that business or a similar business after you. So it's key to note that you're not the first person, and neither are you going to be the last person to run that business. It's therefore important that the challenges you're facing, someone has faced them before. The problems that you're facing, someone has faced them before. So you're not the first person to face those problems. Meaning that had you got in contact with that person who is running or who is at another level in that business, he or she would have guided you not to make similar mistakes that you're making now or that you made a while ago. In other words, he would have shared or should have shared with you the experience. It would have helped you to avoid the challenges or the problems that he or she faced in the business. So unless you're running a greenfield venture which is very, very new in that industry, which is very unlikely the business that you're doing has ever been done by someone else. It is important that you appreciate that. It is important that you note that. It is important that become humble. Become humble and look out for someone who is doing the similar business and is doing it very well. There is doing that business, but also not doing it very well. But there's also doing a similar business and someone is already doing it very well. So meaning that to get to that level where he or she is at, where they are excelling, they've gone through some bit of a path. They've gone through some bit of challenges. They've gone through some bits of ups and downs. So there are a few blocks they've countered and they have won them. And I'm not predicting doom, but you're most likely going to meet the same stumbling blocks. You're going to meet the same challenges. And how you address them is what matters, whether to keep in business or you'll be out of business. So if you succeed at hitting those stumbling blocks and getting over them, then you thrive in business. I did a subject last Friday on whether you're surviving or thriving. So if you meet those stumbling blocks and succeed at them, or hit them and go through them, then that's when you're going to thrive in business. So it's important to note that someone else has gone through such challenges and he or she has succeeded at them. So why not buy from their experience? why not buy from their experience? Why not buy from the bankable knowledge that they have that help them succeed? Are you ready to reinvent the wheel? Because if they got the chance that all their money didn't crash, you're not sure that the challenge you're going to meet, you're going to survive it. So it might even cause the closure of your business. It might even cause you to close shop and go home. That's how serious it is. You might close shop and go home if you're not lucky. But why risk if you have an opportunity, if you have a chance? So that's the role of a mentor in business. I always advise if you guys that I mentor, that it's important that you're mentored by someone who is doing the exact thing that you're doing. The only difference is that he should be doing it or she should be doing it at another level. They should be doing it at another level than where you're doing it at. They should, in other words, have succeeded to a particular step, to a particular level. They should have gotten to a particular level. I share an example. The time, because Jonaki Holdings, we give credit, we lend money. If you need loans, you come and we give you loans. So I usually give an example of what I learned from my mentor. Definitely, he's a microfinance. He has a microfinance institution. He has a microfinance institution that has stood the test of time, that has grown, that has fully established systems. He's at another level altogether. So as myself, am I the only person who is doing this business? Of course not. But again, there are several other players that are doing the business. But not anyone who is doing the business that I'm doing or that I'm planning to do is succeeding at it. And even if they're succeeding at that particular business, it's not that we share. It's not that we share the values. There are some who are doing businesses, but they don't share. We don't share values. A person who will tell you that, in giving out a loan, look out for the collateral. Look after seizing the collateral of a client. So if the values are clashing, I will not take up your advice. I will not take you as my mentor. So I'd always been looking out for someone, first of all, who is doing what I'm doing or what I'm planning to do, and one who is doing it very well, succeeding at it, and then 3, who has the values that I have, because values are very important in business. There's someone who will tell you it doesn't matter who the client is, it doesn't matter what they're going through. My key thing is having the money back, but it's not about the money alone. Someone will tell you, may I foreclose? Even if the person has been a genuine client for quite a while and something goes wrong, just like what happened with COVID-19, someone tells you, you know what, I just foreclose. Now that kind of heart, that kind of approach to things, you might not share the values with that person. So it's the same thing that I had. In not sharing values with most of the potential mentors who are succeeding in lending money, I kept looking for a person who will share values. Most a person who is a Christian. Because we have a mentality that if someone is a Christian, then you cannot do business. And there's one of the clients who called me one time and she wanted a loan. So she gives me a call and she tells me, Jonathan, I need 20 million. I'm like, yeah, fine, come at office and apply. But we need, among other things, a collateral. He's like, I thought you're born again. So I kept asking in my mind, like, if you're born again, don't you ask for collateral? Don't you follow the principles of your business? Really? So you realize that the key thing, so that aside as an example, but the key thing is that was a person who was who was having the values that I have. A person who was having the values that I have. More so, the person who was a Christian. And by God's grace, I got to land on someone who was a Christian, who was doing the very things that I was doing. But he was at another level. He was succeeding at what he was doing. He had established himself. He had established systems. So I'm like, this is the guy. This guy tells me, Jonan, we've met today. Of course, he was charging me. And I always advise, even if your mentor is not charging you, find it courteous that you pay them, because it's only then, most of the time, that you're going to implement the advice they're going to give you. If you do not pay your mentor, the advice they're going to give you, you're not going to value it. You're going to take it for granted. So it's important that you actually pay them. So that if they tell you something, you take it serious. So if they tell you something, you value it. So it's important that you pay them. Pay them. But most of the serious mentors, they charge. And not because they need your money, but because they want you to value what they're telling you. In any case, your money that you're paying them won't change their lives most of the time. But they want you to take something they tell you seriously. And I want you to note that all that we tell you, if I'm mentoring you, all that I tell you is not rocket science. First, I share my experience of what I've met in business, of the challenges I've faced, so that you do not face them. And then two, most of the things you could have heard them from somewhere else. The only difference is that in some of those fora where you heard them, you didn't pay for the information. So you tended not to take it serious, and you tended not to implement it because you got it free of charge. And that's why I charge. So if you come to be mentored by myself, I charge. And I am very okay with it. I'm not shy about it. I really charge. And that's why, if I tell you a word, that's when you can actually implement it. Because most of the time, if you're doing the same business, the same industry, you're most likely going to face the same challenges. Whether you're implementing this in any other country, whether in Uganda or outside Uganda, you're going to most likely face the same challenges. So long as the business is similar and the industry that we're operating in. So the experiences that I share with you, you can only take them serious if I charge you. That's why I definitely will have to charge you. So I get this guy, he charges me a chunk of money. I first asked myself, but really, this guy is such a joke. It's a lot of money that he's charging me. He tells me, Jonah, that's what I charge. So either pay or you do not pay. Now the intention might not have been, squeeze that money from me, but the intention was to see me grow. But it depends on the perspective at which you look at it, because the perspective matters. So this guy tells me, of course, after the first meeting, I pay, and he tells me, Jonan, because by then I was still operating briefcase, You know what I mean by briefcase? I was working with my business under the armpit. I was moving with my business. I was servicing some of the clients from their cars. I would be in my car and then service them from there, give them the money from there. You can imagine how rudimentary the business was. It was a briefcase business. So whoever would call me, wants money, come do some funny paperwork, and there you go, you risk your money. The advantage I had is that as not particular that I'm going to lend to my workmates only, but it so happens that my few first clients that I had, I was lending to my workmates. So it gave me an edge that someone would feel shy to default on me. But if I'd gone public with that kind of approach, I'd be out of business. I guarantee you. By now, I'd be out of business. So I'd be out of business. But then I was lucky that I was operating within my workmates, my circles of workmates. So someone would feel shy to actually default on me. Two, is that then the capital had not grown. So the money I was giving was a little, not as much. But then on me it was much, but then it was really not as much, because I was giving about 700,000 to 1 million, maximum 2 million, 500, in those ranges. But even then with that little money, if I got a bad client, he would have depleted my account. He would have come for like 3 million, puts a car as a collateral, and vanishes with the money, because then I was not caveating the cars even. The land titles, I could not even mortgage them. So someone could even give me a fake land title because I would not even verify. So I was exposed, I was prone to risks, I was prone to funny clients, I was prone to fraudsters. Because I was literally giving money without any collateral. Because if you give out money against the collateral, for example, a car logbook, and you do not caveat the car logbook, and you don't track that car, you're as good as having nothing. Even if you park that car, because most of the guys say that, I park the car. Even if you park in that car, guy can go and transfer the car to someone else's names, and they will come and pick the car. You won't have any way out. So the only assurance that you will have is if you caveat the car, that means you have interest on that car. So if someone sells that car, that means he has sold a mortgaged property, according to penal code. And it is a case. So meaning that you can even impound that car and recover on that car and recover your money. But even then, parking is not enough. So you're literally giving out money almost free of charge. Quite unfortunate. And it's that risky. So I was risking to that extent. A land title. Someone gives a land title. You've not verified whether it's authentic or not. You do not have any thorough process that you go through. But even if you verify and it's authentic, some lands have more than 2 titles. Guy would have given you a fake title and taken you 5 million or 10 million. Especially if you're starting, guy can help you close shop, because fraudsters are all over the world. So then I was not even mortgaging the land. So this guy, we meet, he tells me, Jonan, formalize your business. I'm like, okay, sir. To me, the perspective I had was, I'm saving on rent, I'm saving on registering this business, I'm saving on lots of things, doing the search. I'd compute and I look at myself like, okay, I think I'm doing some bit of saving. Those costs are a bit reduced, not knowing that I'm risking the actual principle that I have at hand. I'm risking the capital of the business, the heart of the business. It was a big, big, big risk. And thank God I got that person earlier in the infancy of the business. And had I got that guy at the actual start, I would be at a different level altogether. Because a few things that I've come to implement and I've not, had I implemented them a while ago, I would have grown to another level. So you could be there and you're still struggling and you're still thinking that you're saving, and yet you're exposing yourself, you're risking. So you could be there and you think you're cutting corners. But at the end of the day, if you're to grow, you have to get serious, get in shape, get formalized, get orderly. That's when you can have a steady growth curve. So this guy tells me, Jonan, we've made the first time, do A, B, C, D. Until you do this, don't come back to me. Whether you're paying or not, I do not care. Wow. So we have a proverb in Nyankore that someone who likes you, or someone who is after protecting you and helping you grow, nurturing you, or mentoring you, speaks to you as if he hates you. So this guy spoke to me as if he hated me, and I appreciated that talk. He told me, don't meet me again if you do not formalize this thing. That's when I registered the business, because then I was doing it informally. That's when I looked for a place to rent. That's when I looked for an office to rent. That's when I hired one staff to be my operations person, because I had another job I was running. So I couldn't run this business from 8 to 5. I'm like, okay, sir, I'm going to do that. So I went, looked out for a place. I rented the place, got the guy, and behold, the office opened. Now, when the office opened, the costs that I was trying to avoid, and this is a testimony, the costs that I was trying to avoid, because then the time I was operating in briefcase, in my car, in my former workplace office, illegally, I was not charging application fees. I was not charging verification fees to verify the logbooks, to verify or even mortgage the land titles and caveat the car logbooks, install trackers in the car. So that's when I started charging those things. And the interesting bit is that even those charges, the charges that were charging on applications alone were enough to cover rent and pay some bit of allowance for the staff. So I asked myself, what is it that I was avoiding? I even started getting clients who would trust me with their titles because they knew that I had an address. Because if you're there, you're transacting from the car, someone finds it hard, especially for genuine clients. They find it hard to trust you with their titles, to trust you with their car logbooks, because they don't know. You're operating in a car, so you can drive off and go somewhere else. Where will I track you with my title? So in such an instance, that's when I came to realize that I was thinking that I was saving, yet as first of all risking my capital, secondly I was doing rudimentary business, thirdly I didn't know that even the cost as avoiding would be compensated or would be covered partly by the money as collecting from application. And that's what we call growth. Because you can imagine the money that was being paid by the clients as loan applications were enough to cover the rent and part of the allowances for the staff. I'm like, wow. Now you can see how an exposed person, how a mentor can actually help you. So irrespective of the business you're doing, you might think you're saving and yet you're shooting in your own foot, and yet you're curtailing your own growth. Because I guarantee you cannot progress, you cannot grow to another level if you're still operating rudimentary, if you're still operating informally. And that's the first thing that I tell all the guys that I mentor, especially in money lending. The first thing I tell them, even if you just formalize the thing, it is cheap to get a license, it is cheap to get an office, irrespective of where it is located, have an address. There are some businesses, yes, that you can do online, that you can do informally, you can do while mobile, but not this business. Because if you're to grow, you need to formalize. You need to formalize. You cannot do this. Briefcase, no. Granted, there are some. If it's a boutique, if there are clothes, and you just post on WhatsApp, on social media, Instagram, yeah, things can move, but not alone. No, you need an address. Someone has to bring your collateral. Someone has to know your address. It's actually a requirement to get a license. So if you do not have an address, you cannot get a license, meaning that you'll be operating illegally. And now, in operating illegally, you're posing yourself to failure. You're posing yourself to risks. You're basically risking your capital. So you're just a day away, or a second away, or an hour away, or a month away from closure of business. Or even potential arrest, because it's illegal. So I came to share with you the instance of having a mentor, irrespective of what business that you're doing. There is someone else who is doing a similar business. Be humble enough, pay whichever thing if you want you to pay. And yes, one key thing I tell you on is that engage someone who is already doing better at that business, who is at another level. Don't bank on those hearsays. I've read. It is a different ball game altogether. Reading something and practically doing something. Those are two different things. That's why I emphasize that you engage someone or you get a mentor who is already doing the thing that you are doing or that you plan to do. And they should be succeeding at it. Now you might ask me, Jonan, how do I know someone is succeeding? That can be checked out. We are living in the 21st century where the information is readily available. You can even see the established systems. Even one interaction with a person in that industry, you can know the level they are at. There are lots of indicators you can look at. So that could be for another day, but you basically can know that someone is doing a particular thing and he's succeeding at it, or he's growing at it, or he's better at it. So long as it's above you and your values relate to their values, engage that person, because that is going to enable your growth. Unless you're doing that business to get daily bread. But if you have future prospects for growth of that business to another level, then you had better get serious with what you're doing. You had better get a mentor who can work with you. Because businesses have challenges. Businesses have ups and downs. Businesses have hiccups. You need someone you can bank on. You need someone that you can speak to. I've had scenarios, even after formalizing, even after caveating, even after mortgaging all those lands, putting a mortgage. There are scenarios that arise, and a fraudster comes, blows you 70 million, and you want a way out. Collections, you need to share. I've reached a corner somewhere, and I'm stuck on collecting the money. Yes, the land is there, the collateral is there, but how do I go about it? I don't have an experience with it. And this is when a mentor comes in. Just a call away like this, it changes the whole ball game. And that's why you need that person. That when things get out of hand, you can get someone who can say, Jonan, get up and walk. When you are really down, like during this COVID time, when you need someone who can tell you, get up. We've been through that. Just get up, get serious, walk. So it's a word of encouragement to you today as I come towards the close of this session, that get someone who is doing the thing that you intend to do or that you're doing. And that someone has to be doing it at another level. He has to be above you. It's one of the principles. One, you have to share values. Two, he has to be doing it at another level, kind of growth, have grown to another level, or has to be succeeding at it, not just giving you hearsays and lugambo, or I read a book, I read a what. No, actual things, because it's different from reading something and implementing it. Those are two different things altogether. And then three, you need to pay them. If they charge, the better. Pay them, because that's when you're going to implement all that they will tell you. That's when you're going to implement all that they share with you. And I guarantee you, you'll grow your business, and that's when you're going to move from that point where you're at to another level. To swallow your pride, you cannot know it all. Even the richest guys that we have, that we see around, have guys that they talk to, have guys that they speak to. When things get out of hand, they have people they confide in. That one is called a mentor. A person who can walk with you, hold your hand, and say, let's go. You're like, okay, sir. That is what I'm telling you today. That is what I'm telling you today. If you've been doing any particular business in any particular industry, now is the time to look out for someone who can walk with you that journey. And you'll come to thank me later. If you're humble enough, you'll come to appreciate me. That, I learned one or two things and I implemented and I'm succeeding at it. And I'll be the happiest, as I've always told you. If you pick one or two things, implement them, I'll be the happiest. But if you just learn for the sake of learning, it will even vanish from your head. That's how unfortunate it is. You'll have wasted your time and your data, and I'll have wasted my time and my data. And it will be unfortunate. And that is not the intention of these sessions. It is for you to pick one or two things and implement them. So Abaganda have a proverb, nazino bulungi ava mudiro. So I think the time is fast spent, and it's always a pleasure to have you guys. Gumadi, Sam Taiwa, Myers, Kanyes J. It's always a pleasure to have you guys. Really, pleasure to have you. So you can always look out my YouTube channel, Jonan Kandwanaho, and just subscribe. It's free of charge. You can subscribe and watch through the videos that you've missed out on. You can also check out our website at www.jonakiholdings.com. I look forward to interacting with you. I look forward to mentoring you. If you need a mentor, especially in the area of money lending, I can help. I can help. The only difference is that I charge, and that's when you can grow. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a blessed Friday and enjoy the rest of the weekend. God bless you. I love you guys, and cheers. Bye.